everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing our very first Pokemon deck profile here. I normally do deck profiles on Yu-Gi-Oh! And Bakugan, but to do it on Pokemon is definitely something very new to me, so forgive me for the way I actually do my own things here. But with that being said, this here is my grass deck. It's definitely very fun, very interesting, and I like to add in a bit of a mixture into this particular deck itself that is typically not a standard build for what most people might consider. Of course, this is played in the standard formats, but even so, this is going to be using very unique cards that you don't often see, simply because they're not the most optimal cards, but sometimes you could just make things really fun when you give all of these things a go. So without further ado, let's just get started. To begin with Pokemon, we're going to be playing here 2 copies of Dhelmise V. I believe this card to be a really interesting card. It's really nice. We're mainly going to be using it for the first ability or the first attack, because it pretty much allows you to deal 90 extra damage if any of your grass Pokemon were knocked out by an opponent's attack during the last turn. So what does this mean? It means you could deal 120 damage, and that is definitely very nice because we are playing a lot of single prize Pokemon that will definitely be vulnerable here, but the Dhelmise will add up when your other single prizes get knocked out after their attacks as well. So it is definitely really nice to have this card in the deck itself, but 2 is more than enough. Moving on, I'm playing 2 copies here of the regular Dhelmise. This is from Vivid Voltage. It's also a really nice card, and it works in a similar fashion that it actually deals 120 damage for its second attack, which is the primary attack here. So you can attach 2 colorless and 1 grass energy, and you essentially have 60 additional damage if you have a special energy equipped to it. So in this particular case, we're going to be using twin energy to equip into Dhelmise, making it easier to actually execute the attack. So you're going to be dealing 120 damage, and if it gets knocked out because it's at 130 HP, you can then follow up with a Dhelmise V, which will deal another 120, making it 240, which would be enough for you to knock out something like Pikarom. You could also potentially knock out a few other smaller Pokemon, but with that being said, you could also knock out something like a Zacian V as well, which is great. However, we are playing 2 copies here because of the fact that it is a single prizer, so even though it deals the same amount of damage as the Dhelmise V, as a single prizer with slightly more energy requirements here, it definitely does add an interesting dynamic between these 2 particular cards, which is why I'm playing a 2-2 ratio. However, if you don't want to take the risk of losing this multi-prizer card, then you could always just switch into 2 more copies of these Dhelmises. That way you would have only single prizes and it would be much easier, but of course you would have to change up the deck a bit with the whole energy attachment and requirements. However, the Dhelmise V is definitely really nice because it has only 1 energy requirement to deal the same amount of damage, and even though there's a bit of a risk, it is definitely worth it to execute your moves. Now, believe it or not, but the 2 Dhelmises actually make up the primary attack of the actual deck itself, so we're going to be playing some different cards here, and this would be the secondary attacker. So we're going to be playing 3 copies here of Shiftry Stage 2, followed by the 1 copy of Nuzleaf, as well as the 3 copies of Seedot. These guys make pretty much the Evo line of it all, and you really just want to go into Shiftry. We only need 1 Nuzleaf because we're already playing Rare Candy in the deck itself. However, with that being said, Shiftry has a really nice ability that changes all of your opponent's supporter cards into draw 3, which is very nice because you're pretty much taking away your opponent's abilities or their supporters to be able to go into something like Professor's Research, or maybe Boss's Orders, or maybe even Marnie. Shiftry just does the job. It has to be in the active spot, but even so, that's definitely very nice. It has 150 HP, which is more than enough to suffice in certain situations. But its main attack, Fan Tornado, also is quite decent because it's 110, which, although it's not high, it is meant to be a deck where we play 2 different attackers to finish off one Pokemon. And its main effect here is a bit of a disruption for the opponents, because you can actually force your opponent to switch their active with one of their benched, which is very, very annoying for them. So if you are able to execute your moves very carefully and strategically, you can definitely make things work quite well here. Moving on, we're also going to be playing Eldegoss V, a bit of a supporter card to just help us out. We're also playing here the Jirachi engine. I'm playing one of each because I think there's a definite way where we could actually just loop the 2 Jirachis. That would definitely be quite fantastic. Now moving on to trainers here, I'm just going to start off with the Tool Scrapper. I think we'll just get this out of the way. It's a card where your opponent might be playing certain tool cards, such as Air Balloon, or maybe even Memory Capsule, and as a result, cards like Tool Scrapper will definitely get rid of those particular cards, those really pesky cards that kind of give your opponent a bit of an advantage, and it's already going to synergize quite well with the fact that we're playing the Shiftry that kind of nullifies your opponent's supporter cards. To apply a few more disruptions, we're playing here the Crushing Hammer to kind of delay the opponent. Definitely very nice. I do wish I had more copies of it. I would play 4 if I could, but for the time being, with the 2 I have here, this is what I'm going with. For a bit of searchability, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Evo Incense. I assume you guys know why, of course. We're also going to be playing 3 copies here of Level Ball. Really nice, I got the gold one, but yeah. And of course, we're also playing here 4 copies of our Quick Ball, because it is definitely going to be quite a crucial card to get all of your basics into your hand. So yeah, with that being said, these are definitely really nice cards just to search out your deck, and I think that is the essential focus of most Pokemon decks in general, is that you want to play a lot of cards that just search out all of your Pokemon as soon as possible. Moving on, we're also playing here 4 copies of the Pokegear 3.0. We're playing quite a few supporters, but we definitely want to search them out, and luckily Shiftry does not nullify your own supporters, it only nullifies the opponents, so you are definitely going to be benefiting off this. We're also playing here 3 copies of Rare Candy. Makes sense, we have 3 copies of Shiftry, so we only need 3 copies of Rare Candy, and that would definitely suffice. Next, I'm also playing here 3 copies of Scoop Up Net, and I'm also playing 4 copies of Switch. I'm choosing to play 4 copies of Switch because we are playing some Stage 2 Pokemon, so because of that, I don't want to use Scoop Up Net too much on them, because if I scoop them up, then I'm going to have to re-evolve them again. Whereas if I play Switch, they simply just move to the bench and you get something else. So Switch is a bit more of the preferable option in this circumstance here. Of course, we're playing a grass deck that has Evos, so as a result, we're going to be playing here 2 copies of Turffield Stadium, just to again help accelerate the search of our cards, and even if we have all of these additional search cards, we can easily just discard them as part of Professor's research, or maybe even Quick Ball if we really need to. However, as for supporters, we're going to be playing here 2 copies of Boss's Orders. It's really all we need, and we're also going to be playing 3 copies of Professor's Research. This is why I'm playing the Pokegear 3.0, because we really just want to get to these cards as soon as possible, and with the minimal amount of supporters we're playing, it definitely does speed up the deck, because the most of it, we're just playing a bunch of item cards, so we could definitely get a bit of a turbo going on. And finally, we move on to energy, so we're going to be playing 4 copies here of the Aromatic Energy. Definitely a really fantastic card because it just prevents all special conditions. So if your opponent is trying to poison you, confuse you, just burn you, do anything they want, Aromatic Energy will protect all of your Pokemon, and it is definitely quite exquisite. Of course, we're also going to be playing here 5 copies of just the basic grass energy. I think it's really nice and it just does the job. To finish things off, of course, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the twin energy for our regular Dhelmise, and we're also going to be playing here 1 capture energy because I believe it just again helps out. If I could play a second copy, I might consider it, but we don't really need that many because the grass energy as their own are definitely really nice to suffice for the deck itself. So yeah, this was pretty much it for my whole deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Obviously it does take 2 attacks or 2 hits to knock out most of their Pokemon, but even so, I think this deck offers a really wide variety of plays that you could actually execute. It is really fun to actually play something that is different from the typical meta. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't consider this to be a competitive deck whatsoever. I want you guys to just try it out and have a bit of fun. And keep in mind that although grass decks happen to be weak in this current format, if you guys just wait it out just a bit till the rotation hits, then all of the fire decks will definitely be nerfed quite a bit. Less people will be playing fire decks. As a result, this deck will definitely be going up, and it would give you a little bit more of an edge in the actual format itself as well. But even so, definitely try this out online, bring it to locals, do whatever you want. It's yours to have fun with. But if you enjoyed this video, definitely like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you all next time.